Welcome to the Sedona Soul Sisters Show, down-to-earth discussions on spirituality, metaphysics, paranormal, and healing topics. The Sedona Soul Sisters are the most trusted psychic mediums in Sedona, Arizona. We are Roz Reynolds, who hopefully will be joining us soon, myself, Ivory Lanou, and Terry Ann Russell. We have offices in Sedona, Arizona, where we see clients from all over the world. Today's topic is Andromedans. If you're watching, listening later, and you have questions, comments, we welcome them. You can put them into the comment section on YouTube, or you can email them to us and we'll address them absolutely anytime. So we're glad to hear from you. So, Terry Ann, this is definitely something that's in your realm, and it's something of interest to me, but why don't you talk about first, like, where do the Andromedans come from?
Okay, so first, I want to say that I was never really aware of all of this. When I first moved to Sedona, seeing spirit was kind of normal to me, but seeing interdimensional beings was not. So it was quite a shock. And I think some people sometimes are taken aback when you say the word, alien race, or they think of what's in the movies, and that can be really just fear-based stuff. And most of them are not like that. There's many different races, as we've been talking about now. But we're talking about Andromedans. And so Andromedans come from Andromeda. It's a part in the universe it's a galaxy. And I found out, maybe 4 years ago when I was doing some work. I always had a connection to Pleiades. And then my higher self, Andromedan self, stepped in. So I was kind of like really shocked about that. I was like, whoa, like, who is this? And I was showing you earlier, I channeled a little picture. Can you see? It's kind of light, but that's what she looks like. And this at the bottom is a symbol that she showed me, and that's me in the ninth dimension. So my higher self in the ninth dimension now exists while I'm here. So there's that connection that we've talked about before. So star seeds do have this access. Do you want to go back into star seeds, or do you just want to strictly talk about Andromedans?
Let's talk about Andromedans first and then progress into Starseed, just so people kind of
Okay.
understand the tie.
Okay. So Andromedan Energy, very much part of this interstellar federation, as we said. It's really, they are here to assist humanity in raising the frequency of humanity. So as an Andromedan starseed myself, part of my mission is to help my clients raise their frequency, learn about frequency, what it is, how important it is to keep it up. And once you raise it, and then connecting with your higher self perspective in the higher dimensions is also beneficial. So that's part of the Andromedan energy. I find that, they really are these helpers. And it's my belief that we've all contracted now to come into this space on Earth while we're here to help humanity rise and raise our frequency.
That's beautiful, and it's interesting that you like had no connection to that. Really didn't like you didn't study it or anything, and then it came in. It just came in. So I do want us people to understand, like Andromedans. The reason they're Andromedans is they come from Andromeda. That's the 19th biggest star constellation in the night sky, and it occupies a huge area of space. If you're looking for it, it's in the northern sky. And it's the most prominent during autumn evenings, so they can see it right now. This is a great.
Yay.
And it was named after the mythical princess Andromeda, the wife of the Greek hero Perseus. So that's how the Andromeda comes into play here and where they're actually from. And I was reading, like, in that Andromeda constellation where they're from, that there's 28 different races of beings. 28.
Wow.
Some are humanoids, some are not. And those life forms include humanoids, plants, animals, insects, but also etheric and plasmic conscious life forms. What an interesting place that must be. So wildly different. I'm sure we have the same thing here. We just don't acknowledge it, and most people are in 3D, so so many they wouldn't see those things.
Right. and we've connected with several consciousnesses, Nyandala. And so, all different ones can be in there. It's not just, we talk about the widely known ones mostly, but there are so many that are assisting. I had one come in recently, a consciousness, Nebula. And so that's a new consciousness that I'm working with right now. And I've not heard of them. There's nothing that you could go look up and say, hey, what's this about? Andromedans, at least, they're well known. You can look them up and say, oh, what are they about? I'd like to learn more about them. But some of them we don't know about. We're just learning about. And that's also part of our progression as we move into this new time.
That's very interesting, isn't it? And I love when you or anybody says those words that they're part of this planetary group, because it makes me think of Star Trek, where they have the Federation of Planets and they're all working together to help lift consciousness and help planets that are kind of low frequency. And I always believed, even as a child, that that existed, that was out there. It just felt right and true to me. And I'm so happy to hear things like that, because I think we need all the help we can get. Let's face it.
Absolutely. And I think that's what we tell our clients, right? We try to tell them that not everything's going to resonate with you. Really take what really resonates with you and go with that, because that's usually where you're headed to find out more about yourself.
Absolutely. And not to be afraid of things like I know you, and I doubt you were afraid. You might have been surprised when this Andromedan ninth dimension part of you came through, but you probably found that fascinating as well. It's not something to be scared of.
No, not at all. Most of them are, like we said, part of this federation and helping humanity raise at this time. I think we're in such a pivotal time period where you're going to look back at it, or our ancestors, our children, our grandchildren are going to look back at it and say, wow, they were really like the forefathers of that. They really started to talk about that at the beginning. And then all of a sudden now we're living in this existence. Like, I think it's so cool.
God, all the angels came in as you were saying that, just whoosh, rush of energy. I think they're going to look back on this time and call it something like the Great Shift, because it's the beginning of something beautiful, shifting out of this low frequency behaviors and thoughts patterns and into true enlightenment. And going through it is never an easy thing. Nobody said it was going to be easy. So the Andromedans are here to help us, right?
They're here to help us. Part of my mission is to not only help them realize that there is part of them in this higher perspective, but to assist them in their awakening, right? So a lot of times they are unaware, or they may start to come in, a client may come in and start, researching stuff and just looking around and delving into parts of them. And that's like their awakening. Their DNA has been activated now. So there's something in them that they've raised their frequency enough, or they've learned enough, and now they're ready to go further with that. So how can I assist them with that? And that's part of the mission of the Andromedan as well, not only to raise your frequency, but to assist you with your awakening, which is wonderful, because I really didn't have that.
I didn't have it either. I mean, I kind of did, that I had teachers, but they never talked about raising your frequency. They were doing things that helped me do it, but they never spoke of that, or like specifics of how to do it. And that's a really important thing to me too. Like, I don't think I ever see a new client without that coming up.
Yeah,
It's
not
just
until I met
so,
Roz. She was really big into frequency and telling me about keeping my frequency high. Everything's working out for our highest and best. And, I always go back to Eckhart Tolle, because I love him. When everything's good, that's easy to do. It's when you're really down in the trenches that it's more difficult to remember all of that. And that's when you step back into that spiritual practice, right? Even when you don't want to, or things are heavy in your life and going on, we still have to get in that space where we have to raise our frequency.
do you think the Andromedans help us do that, or remind us to do that when we're feeling that battle, like when we're feeling depleted?
Yeah, absolutely. I
That's,
think they're really, when I connected with my higher aspect of myself, it just felt very loving and caring and forgiving and, you know, otherworldly, I would say, like almost like when you connect with your angels or spirit, the same sort of resonance in my heart space. And that's how I always say that you can know that you're connecting with a high frequency being. Sometimes you'll get the ringing in the ear really, really strong. You may experience goosebumps around you or being really cold. So there's all different ways that you can experience connecting with a higher dimensional aspect or being.
I know I was trying to explain to some clients that as they were asking me about alien races coming to visit, and I'm saying, no, these are not scary things, but it feels a lot like angels. Like the frequency is very similar. I don't know if I've ever been visited by Andromedans, but I don't know everything that's visited me. So can you talk more about what they look like?
So, from what I've seen, and this, look, Roz, yay. So that's a higher aspect of myself. That's a ninth dimensional Andromedan aspect of myself. The bigger eyes, the nose was kind of really like much skinnier than my nose would be. Smaller lips, longer neck, um, bigger forehead. I mean, it almost looks like David Bowie to me. The hair, like, I mean, I'm like, just like David Bowie.
I
So
was
I like how, you know, she just presented that way to me.
I was reading about how tall they are. Like the females are 7 to 10 feet tall. I'm like, I'd be a shorty on that planet. But you know what I didn't see is how tall the males are. Have you ever read anything about that or seen anything?
No, I would have to assume they're in the same bracket. There isn't such a disparity as there is on Earth here with women and men. They're more clearly.
I think one of the most awesome things about Andromedans is the power and strength that the females have. Like that's one of the things they're known for, right?
Absolutely. And it reminds me of that goddess energy as well.
Mm-hmm.
All the goddesses, very strong warrior type, but they have that sort of femininity to them, that balance of the masculine and the feminine. Um, I think a lot of times people are drawn to Andromedans because of that energy, because of that, you know, the strength that they exhibit. A lot of people have said to me on numerous occasions, I was just drawn to you. I don't know why. Um, and it's funny because throughout my life, I've always been a very strong masculine um, person. And as I've gotten older and I'm sort of balancing the feminine with the masculine and sort of coming into that space. So I think Andromedans, you know, they offer that too.
Interesting. I read that they're the most beautiful women in the galaxy.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. I think there's so many, you know, like you said, that we don't even know about. These are just the ones we talk about. I know that Andromedans also are they're drawn to like certain cultures like Egyptians or Atlantis, Machu Picchu, Mount Shasta. So these, you know, sometimes as a Andromedan starseed, you may be drawn to these places as well.
Hmm. Interesting.
Hmm.
Why they're drawn there?
I think it has a resonance with them because they've been there before. Um, I do know for me, my experience with it has been that, you know, I'm very much like a free spirit. I like to travel. I'm a rebel at heart. I find that Andromedans, other ones that I've met as well, have those similar characteristics, like just free, you know, they really struggle with being boxed in and working like 9 to 5. And um, I think that's a little bit different than the Palladians. So
Hmm.
I think Andromedans have that more of that free spirit type of energy.
One thing I do know about Andromedans is that like freedom is a core thing for them, for the people of Andromeda, for the starseed, and particularly with females. I think that's so interesting. Like, but maybe they've been through times in their ancient history that were like we've been through, where it makes you value the ability to vote, to make decisions about your body. If those were not yours at some point, then you hold tight to your freedoms. So I can see that.
Absolutely. And I think they're really strong in their sense of purpose and knowledge in their light. They really, their purpose right now, is helping us. So a lot of that comes through when you connect with somebody that's an Andromedan starseed. I forget what I read. I there has to be like, I thought I read one time, and I don't know if it's accurate, but there's like 250 different types of species or races throughout all the universes.
I would think it's probably more than that.
I would think it's probably more than that
It's
too.
so vast. I think that that's maybe what's known.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we have the arrogance of humans of thinking if something doesn't look humanoid, it's not life. When that's not
Right.
true. I think there's, depending on what the planet was, what the atmosphere is like, they could look extremely different from us. So alien, we can't even fathom each other.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It always reminds me of, you ever see those walking stick bugs?
mm-hmm.
They always like blow my mind when we were across the country on the East Coast and we saw some, and they always blow my mind because they remind me of a type of alien life form.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And people are always freaked out by something that's out of their realm of experience. If it's completely foreign to them, they most people put a wall up. They kind of, their hackles go up. They're afraid. They're not going to get near it. They go into fear mode. But I think that's something we really need to get past, unless there's a reason to feel that. I can remember a time when if something alien came to me, I was wigged out. I hated it. I just wanted it to stop. And now I enjoy it. There's certain ones I want to come back. I welcome to come back that were very pleasant or curious, mysterious, but positive.
Yeah. I think depending on how you intuit information, whether you feel it, see it, hear it, you have to be very aware. And we've talked about that several times, discerning what it is that is coming to you, that, because a lot of times nobody taught me about discernment and protection and shielding. And so I didn't know any of that. And when this all started happening to me, it was pretty frightening. So I think if it is happening to you, look out there and research what you can find about all of those things. Who's connecting with you? Not everybody belongs connecting with you. I always ask, are you of the light? That's very helpful. They have to say yes. And so if they say no, a lot of times if someone's coming in and they're offering you stuff or, promising you things, they're not of the light. So just being discerning in who you're connecting with as well.
And it always
And
comes back to how does it feel, right?
yeah, and I think you have to always express that if they do not have your highest and best good and the best intention for you, they're removed.
Blast them out of there. So I know you want to talk about the starseed aspect of this, and I'm sure there's people watching right now listening who are curious. What are the traits? How would somebody know that they're an Andromedan starseed?
So Andromedan starseeds, they are very much, again, that nomadic type, free spirit type of person. They don't like to work, or they have a hard time working 9 to 5, in that box in thought of what we should be living that life. They really like to be outside in nature. Water is very calming for them. That's another aspect of the Andromedan starseed. Lots of water. It's also very grounding for them. Making a difference in the planet. If you're really from a young age. So from a young age, I was very much for the underdog You know, if I saw somebody getting picked on, I would really jump right in there, even if I was going to get beat up myself. I was not going to let that occur. And so I think um, Andromedan starseeds have that aspect. They're a gentle warrior, but when it comes time to standing for justice and making a difference, that's how you really know that you're an Andromedan starseed.
Well, I know that on the planet they're very renowned for their abilities in science and technology. So doesn't that translate through to the starseed as well?
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
So if they
I didn't
don't
get that.
really like to work, what would they do with that skill?
Well, they don't like to work 9 to 5. So, and a lot of them struggle because that's what we're taught to do. You know, we're taught to work a typical job, 9 to 5, your benefits, your 401k. And so that's what we're taught. But those Andromedan starseeds struggle with that boxing in. So they like to be more free spirit where they can work in something that is more allows them more space to be creative in who they are. So whether it's with science, technology, art, they're very creative also. So, you know, anything in that space that isn't your typical 9 to 5.
So maybe like things like being inventors where you work on your own, or having a podcast, running a podcast, or doing something with technology you can work from home. And maybe even some people start doing startups that involve technology, could be Andromedans. There's a lot of them that are really positive that are being created right now by younger people to really help the world, help the planet. So I wondered about that.
I think, yeah, that's part of it too. The crystal babies that are coming in, they are all very highly sensitive, empathic. That's another one. So those children, as they're growing up, right, they're trying to create a environment for us to thrive in, not much like what we've had, you know, where we're just all for ourselves and cutting down all the trees and obliterating the forest, you know, to build houses. These children are much more advanced in their sensitivity, so they're looking for other ways around that. I was gonna say like environmentalist, stuff like that.
I would think so. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. And I was reading about how the younger generation's really the forefront in the fight against environmentalism. But I know, like myself and a lot of my friends who were gung ho with this from the early 80s, like fighting since then, like there's always been that current there. But these younger people coming in, there's so many of them who get it, who really see the big change that has to happen. So maybe a good number of those are Andromedans.
Hmm. Do you notice that, like with your grandchildren, how much more advanced they are? I noticed with my daughter, she's much more advanced.
All I have to do is play a video game with a 7-year-old, and it's shown to me very clearly. I can't stay on the road, and he's like way ahead. Ha ha, I'm up here. So, yeah, they're super good with technology. Both of them are super good with math, science. They didn't get that math thing from me, that's for sure. But yeah, definitely seen that in other children too in the family that are of that type of child. Just they seem so brilliant. Like it's just kind of awe-inspiring. Like, what are you gonna do with your brain? What are you gonna do to help the world with that intelligence you have?
Right. And I like that they have the extra sensitive aspect. So they are sensitive to what they are creating, right? Like I said, it's not like a lot of the previous generations where we've just been all for ourselves. This generation and the ones going forward, even the future coming in, are all about that community, that sensitivity, caring for others. So there's been a big shift in the children that have been coming in.
There really is, and thank God. We need a big shift. There's a lot of selfishness and narcissism going on that is not going to help us or the planet one bit. So what is it like, or if you know, to be visited by an Andromedan? What could a person expect?
Mm. There's so many varying degrees depending on how you intuit information. What I do know is they never come to scare you. So really be open. I mean, the first portals that I saw opening, those were like just the beginning of me just starting to look deeper, doing more research in what was going on with this. It wasn't just my eyes. I rubbed my eyes and it would still be there. So I wasn't hallucinating or seeing things, but little things like that. So things start to come in, like to plant these seeds, I say. And then somebody says, well, that doesn't seem like that would be normal. Let me go look up about portals or whatever it is and galaxies. I just find that anybody that's really a star seed has always been, one common thing I find with my clients is they've always been drawn to astronomy, the stars. They've always felt a connection to, wondering there's got to be more out there. It can't just be us. So that's one common thread. But if you are being visited by an Andromedan or any type of higher level being, like again I said, it really depends on how you intuit your information. They usually, if you're visual, they may show themselves to you. They may show themselves as sparks of light. If you hear information, they may start talking to you, which may be a little concerning if you're not used to like hearing voices or stuff like that. But I always say they always have a clear message, and it's usually very free and of a higher frequency. So it's never scary. It's always like, I'm here to help you. Or so whatever you're hearing, you have to be sure that you're hearing stuff like that.
Do you think even with the Andromedans that it can be an experience like I know with other races that they will come in and I'll feel the prickling in the crown chakra area that I often feel like when you're receiving information but you're not hearing it with your ears?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Any feeling through your body, it may come in through your head and spread out, or you may hear like that buzzing or that ringing that sometimes is spirit, but it also can be a high frequency being. I find when they really want to get my attention, it's like a buzzer's been turned on, like, all right, now you need to connect now. We need to speak with you.
I've been having so much of that lately, just so much of that high frequency ringing, more than usual.
Yeah.
Just go with it. So, is there a mission for Andromedan Starseed that they need to be aware of, other than?
Yeah, they're definitely making a difference on the planet. They are here to make a difference. They're here, and whatever that means for them. There's so many different things you can say that you're here to making a difference. They can teach, they can help. A lot of them are helpers. On a personal level, the first they begin helping themselves. They take themselves out of a situation maybe that wasn't good for them, right? So they start helping themselves. They're opening these new galactic pathways. And sometimes we do that without even understand that we're doing it until you get deeper into it. So they're definitely here to make a difference in the planet. They're definitely here to help others transition into also making a difference in the planet.
It's a lot. And is there any kind of, I know this is going to sound funny, but I know it exists for rainbow children and groups like that. Is there any kind of like online support that's for people who realize they're Andromedan starseed?
I'm not sure. I'm sure you can Google it and see if
I would
there's any
imagine there
kind of
might be.
support for star seeds, like sort of like people that have been abducted, something like that.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know there's
Yeah.
support groups for children who are any of those rainbow crystal children. There's
Mm-hmm.
support groups online that the parents sit there with them. It's like online group and in person. There's groups like that too, just to help them meet other kids like themselves. I think it'd be helpful for other Andromedan starseed to meet some like themselves. You know how it is. Like you need to have people in your life that understand your experiences, your journey. Otherwise, it's so isolating.
Absolutely. And that could be part, maybe one can start that, and that can be part of them making a difference.
Absolutely. Maybe we'll inspire somebody. I bet you there already is a group out there. There's this kind of thing is just so popular these days. I would be
Mhm.
shocked if it wasn't. What are some other things Andromedans or the starseed are well known for?
Mm. I would have to say a big one would be just seeking their freedom,
Yeah, that.
really being, really being free, and accepting that. I know, being young, I changed a lot of positions. I did a lot of different things, and everybody was always like, "Oh, you quit that already? You were just doing that for a year." Like, and I'm like, "Well, I'm done with that. I'm moving on to something else." Um, and that was just my free spirit coming through. So really, honoring that free spirit, whatever it is, they like to have their hands in a lot of different things.
I was studying up because I got real interested in it and it kind of went down a rabbit hole of Andromedans. And I was reading about the different kind of races in their constellation, that they also have these 7 to 9 foot tall winged humanoids that exist in higher dimensions. And they think that those beings have their origins in avian races. And that would be so interesting. I mean, I'm sure. What dimension are they in? Ninth dimension. So these avian beings must be in even higher dimensions in that constellation. How interesting would that be?
Yeah, well, I've heard they could be as high as the 12th dimension. Mine is in the ninth dimension. So yeah, that could truly exist in like a 12th dimensional field where there's winged beings. I mean, I would love to like just be a fly on the wall for one day there, you know?
Take a day trip to Andromeda? Is that what you're looking for? Sign
Hmm.
me up. Sign me up. I also know that the Andromedans are approximately 45,000 years ahead of us technologically, a very spiritually advanced race. And we come back to that same thing again where scientists will say it's not possible to travel to these other galaxies, to these areas. It's just impossible. It'd be multiple lifetimes. It'd be this, that'd be that. 45,000 years ahead of us with technology. Think where we've come in 200 years. 45,000. I mean, we
Right.
cannot even fathom the things that they can do and the way that they do it.
Yeah. And we're still, I feel like we're still like babies, right? But if we
We
look at
are.
ourselves as the ship, and our heart, is part of that, and our pineal gland is all part of it. That's like the steering wheel. And so it's getting us from this consciousness to a higher consciousness. Like, we don't really have to, get out of your limited mind. It's not like you're actually going, you're already there if you think about it. So it's like, who am I? Why am I here? Where am I supposed to be? You can already be there just by doing this work, or just by connecting with your heart, or your pineal, your pineal gland, your intuitive senses. As we begin to open up, our world begins to open up immensely.
There was a show we did, and we were talking about, I think it's Lumeria. Does Lumeria sound
Maria.
familiar? And I was telling you about those astral travels I have where I'm wide awake and I'm suddenly in this outdoors and there's this giant pyramid with a carved lion head in the front of it. And I'll be there for like 45 minutes. And you're like, Ivory, that's Lemuria. You were in Lemuria. So I think the astral travel thing is a form of travel that they utilize and that we can utilize. And some of us just do it. I'm not trying to do it. I'm not going, hey, I think I'm going to go visit the pyramids of Lemuria. I'm trying to go to sleep, but I can't. And I see these things. So maybe we can train ourselves to go to these places in that way because it is very real. Like I could feel the breeze on my face. I could feel the grass, it looked like grass tickling my skin. I could feel the warmth of the sun, and it was nighttime in my bedroom. So
Right.
it's very real.
And that's why we do spiritual hypnosis and past life regression, because we can access that part of the subconscious where your soul has already been there. So, right, Ivory's soul has already been there, and it's a remembrance for you, even though you're going to bed in your bedroom and you're sleeping, you can go there, or they wanted you to go there to see something, right? So,
I guess so. I spent a lot of time researching, trying to find that carved lion head on a pyramid, and I never did. So I was so glad when you said that. But the point today is, I think people might be traveling there, astral traveling there, and not know. So, what does it look like? Do you have any idea? Or I mean, that's kind of a wild question to ask, but do you know what it looks like if someone astral travels to the Andromedan constellation?
Like what it actually feels like,
Or what it
or
looks like?
what it looks like.
No, nobody really knows, or nobody's talked about it. I'll
No,
ask to go there and see if that works. I'll try. I'll
I'm
let you
sure we
know what
could
it
do a
looks like.
field trip, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
We'll make a conscious request to. I'm just putting it out there now. Let me go to the Andromeda constellation and just see what one of the planets looks like. You know, what does it look like? The terrain. You know, I bet there's some similarities in some wildly different areas. And if there's somebody watching or listening who knows this, please email us and let us know. We'll be very curious. It just
I
hasn't
just
come up
heard,
yet.
like, did you ever see the movie Avatar?
Yes. Yes.
So I
Love
just
it.
heard Avatars, so maybe it can be similar to what Avatar looked like.
Maybe
That'd
somebody
be
who's
pretty
involved with
cool.
Avatar has astral traveled there. That
I
would be
truly
cool.
believe that. I
And,
believe some of those movies that they make,
oh yeah.
really, they have got to have seen that somewhere, and they're connecting with that higher dimensional self of theirs to make that, create it.
Well, sign me up. I don't want to take a 15-minute trip into space for $30 million, but I would like to visit the planet that's in Avatar.
Well,
Not
the
for
next,
$30 million.
next time you want to go to Lemuria, I suggest Lemuria is supposedly underwater off of the Big Sur, California coast area.
Are you joking?
And when I worked there, and Ed and I lived there for 6 months, we saw and experienced some of the most amazing metaphysical, manageable. It was just mind blowing how magical it was in that whole area. And there are areas along there, like there's one area called Jade Beach, and pieces of jade just wash up on the beach. We spent a fair amount of time at Pfeiffer Beach, which is just above where the town of Big Sur is, down an amazing narrow little canyon with a redwood canyon with ferns, with deer, with just like you were in a different place, a different planet. And then you get down to this beach, and there's, if you Google Pfeiffer Beach, not Pfeiffer State Beach, but Pfeiffer Beach, there are amazing pictures online. There is right off of the beach, there's a very large rock formation, and it's got a doorway. Literally, there is a doorway carved through this. And when you can't walk out there because the waves are too rough, and it's really pretty wild, a coastal area. But the sand there is also purple. And
Wow.
it's indescribable, the experience of being there. And you can feel the vortex, you can feel how strong it is. And in December, on the solstice, photographers come from all over the world to photograph. There's the doorway, and when the sun sets during those few days of the solstice, it sets right down the center of that doorway and shines right through it. And there's some just amazing pictures online. So if you ever want to entertain yourself about Lemuria, you can read
I
up
think I need to.
on what the coastal dwellers believe about. And there's also Moonstone Beach there in Cambria, where it's, you walk out into the waves, and there's actual moonstones you can pick up
Wow.
that are just coming in.
That's amazing.
It's really mind-blowing. And where we lived during that 6 months when we were contracting to work there, we just got it in our head that we had to go there, we needed to go there. And it ended up that we looked online, we were able to get a position where we worked for one of the contractors in the area who manages parks, etc. And the most fabulous thing of all was we lived right at the base. We lived in a campground right at the base of one of those canyons that goes up to the mountaintops. And when you held a compass there, it just spins. You're in a different place. And I saw beings from all kinds of dimensions, different dimensions there. Ed experienced that. I could hear them. It was a trip.
Oh, we gotta go.
We
You,
do.
you really,
Sedona
yeah.
Soul
I
Sisters
mean,
field
if
trip.
we could do a road trip over there and stay for a week, we would probably blow our own minds.
Wow. Yeah, especially if the three of us go together. You know how that goes.
Yes, for
We'll
sure.
open up
And
some cosmic gateway.
And you know, I
I
was just thinking about it. Like in every room I've ever had, like there's always a place in my bedroom where these beings come through. And right now it's the bay window area in my bedroom. That's where all these alien races come through. So I know there's a portal open there and I didn't consciously open it. So I think mediums maybe just can open any kind of portal,
oh
I
yeah,
guess.
oh yeah.
So there's got to be portals that are even more powerful where if we just knew where they were, we could be there and maybe there's an Andromedan portal somewhere. I'm going to look into it. I'm going to find out.
Check it out.
I will. I like to research. You can
You're
bet I
you've
will.
got the, like you could probably communicate really well with them because you're the close to their height.
I'd only be up to their shoulders, like most people are to me. I was visiting my daughter and they had a big Halloween party and the whole party went through and like almost over a lady goes, "How tall are you?" She'd been holding it in all evening. 6 feet.
You had to
6 feet.
know.
Yeah. Her husband was 6'8", so I felt short next to him.
Oh, wow.
So any last thoughts about Andromedans that you want people to know, or star seeds, things that might help people, Terry Ann?
I would just say if you're really starting to think about these things and we're helping you to expand your mind, by really doing research, find out what you can, what you're I always ask to show me, books show up, shows show up, videos show up. And ask to be shown what you need to be shown or who you need to be shown. And again, people will come to me and say, "I don't know how I found you." You just popped up on my phone, or I was just walking in town and was drawn here to you. So look for that stuff. That's the magical stuff that exists, and that can help you further your research to where you're going.
People ask us how we advertise our business. That's our primary way. Apparently, our frequency goes out like a beacon. People come in because that's happened so often. Well, I've enjoyed this so much. We'll be doing another race. The next one, it's always the first show of the month. And so the next one will be December 3rd, and it's the Arcturians. So that's our next race we'll be doing. But I hope you've enjoyed watching the Sedona Soul Sister show today. Next week, we're going to be talking about symbols. Symbols frequently seen in spirituality, metaphysics, all kinds of symbols and what they mean and their origins and where you might see them and what they might mean, like seeing them in a dream. Or maybe you're just, I know for me, I've always been drawn to spirals. That's just been a big thing for me. Everybody's got something like that. So we'll be diving into that next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you again for joining us. We appreciate you watching and listening and following us. And in the meantime, we hope you have an enlightening week.